Hi, folks. I'm Father Joe Grimaldi. You can call me Joe, and I'd like to welcome you to my podcast. But now, here's our host and friend, Ken Calvert.
Hello, everyone, and when Irish eyes are smiling, that's all I'm going to do. At this time of year, people just go crazy with St. Patrick's Day, and we're going to talk about that, and I would like to welcome you to the Father Joe Grimaldi podcast. Now is the time to visit Star Lincoln. Conveniently located 12 Mile Road, just east of Telegraph in Southfield. Incredible deals going on right now. You need to act now. The Navigator, the Corsair, the Nautilus, Aviator, and MKZ. Shop and buy from home. Digital showroom. It's open 24/7. Swift, safe, simple. Simply go to starlincoln.com. Prefer the phone? 888-356-1278. And remember, we feature remote pickup and delivery. Our award-winning service remains by appointment only between 8 a.m. and 6 p.m. However, walk-ins for new vehicle sales continue to be from 9 a.m. until 6 p.m. Again, go to starlincoln.com or call them 248-354-4900. Well, obviously, we have not disguised the topic here today, have we? We're coming up on St. Patrick's Day. St. Patrick's Day, and I wanted to ask you a question, March 17th, and if you don't know that, Father Joe and I cannot help you. Why is it a celebratory day, first of all, for St. Patrick, and number two, why have we evolved into this area of making it a day of just going ballistic in terms of drinking and having a celebration and parades?
Pub crawls.
Yeah, Chicago, New York, Detroit, the Midwest, I think, more than the rest of the nation, don't you?
That's where the Irish settled.
But we are celebrating St. Patrick, and why are we celebrating St. Patrick? Why is it such a big event? Not only in the Catholic Church, well, maybe not even in the Catholic Church, but why is St. Patrick's Day such a big day?
You know the history of the Irish in the United States, huh? In the beginning, they were banned. That happened in all the major cities. When the immigrants first came, people were very cautious about any foreigners coming into the country, and so where you had this large number of people from Ireland coming. In the beginning, they were not welcome, just like all the other ethnic groups. They had a hard time finding jobs, housing, and all of the rest, okay? So I think there is a cultural genesis, if you want, to this celebration of St. Patrick, because that unified the Irish all the more, and so that they had now a saint of their own, because St. Patrick, who was not Irish, he was of Roman background, but ended up being the apostle to Ireland and had many conversions.
People always said, well, he basically is known for driving the snakes out of Ireland. And that's not true. You're saying right now, let's just get this straight. That's not true.
No, I don't know how true or not it is. I mean, he was a very holy man, a bishop. It's funny how we say March 17th is when he died, and so we celebrate that day. Well, he lived in the 5th century. We don't know what day he died. We don't know what he looked like.
Right.
We have no pictures on the cell phone of St. Patrick. But by the same token, like anything else in the church, we choose a day that's convenient for everyone. And so the 17th, well, more or less convenient for everyone. And we're speaking about 5th century, too, which is very early in anyone's vocabulary. So St. Patrick is a day to celebrate the wonderful customs and the wonderful traditions of the Irish as they unified themselves, because they all went to the big cities, just like all the other ethnic groups that came. They went to the big cities. That's where your jobs could be found. They could make a home there, and so on and so forth. So I don't know if, matter of fact, I belong to a religious order which is sourced in Ireland.
Yeah, you took my question. You know that.
Yeah, and no, I don't, but that's okay.
Well, all right, either way. All right.
What was your question anyway?
No, not my question. I was going to say, by the way, aren't you an Irish Christian brother?
Well, I was, yes, for 31 years. But
Okay.
so we're steeped in the tradition of Ireland.
Right.
However, when you speak to the Irish, the ones from Ireland, corned beef and cabbage is not on the agenda, okay? That's a very local type of food. For some reason or other, it's been attached to St. Patrick.
You've been reading my notes, haven't you? Go ahead. I'm sorry. Yeah, how did that come? Never mind. Keep flowing. I'm sorry.
Well, the other thing, too, that's attached now, you make comments, not you, but I mean, generally, people make comments about all the drinking that occurs on that. Well, that's not related to St. Patrick. I mean, that to me, when I think about it, a time for people to get together and celebrate. Liquor and food usually are featured on the times that we get together to celebrate. Now, it seems that very often the drinking became emphasized, particularly in places like New York and Chicago and Detroit and so on. And so I don't know why. I wish I did. I don't know why, but drinking became, well, for example, you hear about people going on pub crawls.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
They hire a big bus and you have all of your friends, and then you have one of the foods that I would hate to eat is green eggs. Okay. Scrambled. I mean, that would not be my cup of tea.
I was never a fan, even though it's just I never liked green beer. Nope.
No.
No,
so
thanks.
you put that together, then of course the van or whatever it is that you're in stops at the different bars, particularly in places like in Detroit would be Trinity Church, where they go to mass first and then get in these big vans and go from one place to the other. I think they were thinking of safety, thank God. So they were having a driver take this big group of people. And a lot of people did that. And it was a lot of fun. In any case, to make a long story short, it's interesting, but I really don't have an answer concerning the source of the drinking being featured.
Well, I found something. It says the tradition of drinking, St. Patrick's Day, first started to honor St. Patrick on the anniversary of his death. And as you said, we don't necessarily know for a fact that was the day of his death. The Christian people held a great feast for which Lenten food and alcohol restrictions were temporarily removed, which is why drinking has become synonymous with the holiday. That's what I have. That's, if you go to St. Google, that is what you will see. So apparently restrictions are lifted that day.
But what restrictions are lifted?
Well, the fact that during Lent so many people give up drinking alcohol.
Oh, all right, but that's not a restriction. That's something self-imposed.
It doesn't say that, by the way.
It is.
I did a copy and paste on that, but it does say, the restrictions are removed. I remember my father would give up drinking for Lent, but on St. Patrick's Day, he and my uncles would get together and say, we've been looking forward to this. That's how I kind of think it evolved, all right?
A wee bit.
A wee bit, yeah. I want to go back to something else you said earlier, though, that, and I'm not going to draw any comparisons at all, but apparently, in a way, people have been segregated against for over 100 years in this country. And I don't have to get into the various areas. But you're telling me that at one point, the Irish and the Italians need not apply.
Yes, it was an open segregation, really. I mean, the signs were on the windows of the stores.
But what? Who? I'm trying to think of what the nationalities occupied the country that held back the Irish, the Italians, but moreover the African Americans. Who were the core Americans that held up the stop sign?
Well, the ones that were against England, of course. And so...
Okay, so you're talking about the various people that landed here.
But it's not they themselves. I would say the progeny, the people that succeeded them, then it became, you wanted to close off any type of immigrants coming in. So, you know what's interesting to me, because it's the same thing we have today, racism, unfortunately, is alive and well. Well, I think what happens is if we don't know a lot about a group of people, and if we don't mix with the group of people too often, well, what we're going to start to do is have weird ideas about them, this type of thing. That's what prejudice is all about. We don't know really why we don't like certain groups, but it happens. And so I think in the early days, obviously, that's not true today. The Irish are very much part of the American culture.
Huge.
The same thing with the Italians and the Germans, because the Germans came around the same time. But you know what? It's interesting to me. They rallied around their saints. For example, the Germans rallied around St. Boniface. And then you had the Irish rallied around St. Patrick. Then you have the Italians. They rallied around what they thought was, part of their culture. Depending on where you were from in Italy, they had their own patron saints. So St. Rocco, Our Lady of Mount Carmel. You had all of these different groups that even today, they continue to celebrate. Now, with the Italians and the Germans, you don't have the same reaction that you do for St. Patrick.
Right.
St. Patrick, I think what makes it even more famous is the major cities all have big parades.
Sure, look at
For example, every Catholic high school and some of the grade schools in New York had to march in the St. Patrick's Day parade. You had all the different bands and all of that.
Right.
The same is true, I think, in the other major cities.
Chicago dyes the river green. That's a big event each and every year.
Yeah.
And it's taken to this mantra that St. Patrick's Day, everyone is Irish. And of course, now I think we're seeing less and less of it because of, too many reasons to get into. But how many people over the course of the years have you seen wearing a T-shirt or a button or a hat that says, "Kiss me, I'm Irish"? A lot of people think that the alcohol industry has more or less really put a boost into celebrating St. Patrick's Day. We've all seen lines, but on that one day, good luck getting into a bar or a pub. Well, maybe now it'll be different. Last year, it was nullified. It didn't happen.
Like everything else, because of the pandemic, things have trickled away, okay?
Yeah.
And I really don't know what's going to happen this year. I think individual families are celebrating St. Patrick's Day, and they invite their friends, but I don't think it's going to be as big as it was in the past. And then another thing is happening in my mind, at least, and I'm not a sociologist, but I'm interested whenever these days come about to see what the country is doing. But I think a lot of people are very health conscious these days, and they've really limited themselves on, smoking and drinking and all of these different things. So it's interesting that 30 years ago, that wasn't the case. Not even 5 years ago, it wasn't the case.
2 years ago. Two years ago. I enjoy St. Patrick's Day. I think it's a nice day. It reminds us that we're on, especially here in the Midwest, the cusp of springtime. We're getting a couple of those. My wife and I were talking this morning. There have been St. Patrick's Days where we've seen 16 inches of snow. There have been other days that we've seen temperatures 75 degrees. It's one of those mystery days. St. Patrick's Day will always remain a special day, and I'm glad for whatever reason, the history, the background, the lore, whatever it may be, I'm glad that we have St. Patrick's Day. It's just a good day.
Yeah, I'm not even Irish, but I do enjoy it a lot. Yeah. And I get together with friends who are Irish. Actually, Notre Dame University.
I was going to go there finally,
because
yes.
Notre Dame University is certainly associated with the Irish. Even one of their mascots would be the Fighting Irish and so on.
Yeah, the leprechaun.
But, here in where I am now, there's a big group of Notre Damers who always celebrate St. Patrick's Day
I bet
on a
they
local
do.
level.
Yep, I bet
and
they do.
And also, believe it or not, even in the city of Naples here, they no longer have it. They used to have a parade here too.
No kidding.
Many of the universities were partaking.
So let's say a prayer and wish everybody well and a healthy and happy and stay safe St. Patrick's Day.
I'm going to pray the breastplate of St. Patrick.
Nice.
This prayer is attributed to him, and actually it's a much longer prayer in the original, but it's a shortened form that I'm going to do now. So, Christ be with me, Christ within me, Christ behind me, Christ before me, Christ beside me, Christ to win me, Christ to comfort and restore me, Christ beneath me, Christ above me, Christ in quiet, Christ in danger, Christ in hearts of all that love me, Christ in mouth of friends and strangers. Amen. This is Father Joe Grimaldi, and I look forward to seeing you next time on the Father Joe Podcast.
We'd like to remind you to share the Father Joe Podcast with your friends. You can reach Father Joe at frjoepodcast@gmail.com, and you can find us on Facebook or say, Alexa, play the Father Joe Podcast. We look forward to seeing you next time.